They should have named these episodes So Much Stun Gun and So Much More Stun Gun. There's even a scene where like tech sniper stun guns someone. Like he really takes his time to stun him, taking the stun gun to a whole nother level.
It's a great sound effect though. Welcome, everyone, to Krypton to Alderaan. I'm Joey, your Star Wars lover, and with me is Royish Good Looks.
Hello, Podcast Galaxy. And Joey.
Hello. And we're the podcast that talks all about nerdy pop culture stuff, but it's mostly Star Wars. And this episode, we're here to talk about the Season 2 premiere of The Bad Batch. But first... If you'd like to get in touch with us, reach out with your feelings. Just search Krypton to Alderaan on any social media platform, or you can pew us an email at kryptontoalderaan@gmail.com. Please also consider and then also just go and do it. Leave us a review wherever you're listening. And finally, please share with your friends. Do you know someone who likes Star Wars? Do you know someone who likes animation? Do you know someone who enjoys wild and wacky hijinks? Royce, would you say that we have wild and wacky hijinks?
Yeah.
Or does all that get edited out?
Yeah. And distortion when people get too angry and or inebriated.
Yeah. Do you like distortion? Or do you know someone that would like distortion? Well, then they'll love this podcast. In conclusion, please tell your friends about our show. 2023 would be great to... Well, you know what? It would be great for 2023 to go better than it started for me, and more listeners would really, really help with that. So if you could pass the word around, that would be great. Thanks a lot. Royce, how's it going? How has your 2023 been so far?
I can't complain, man. I'm on my little, sabbatical in between semesters, and I'm writing new music, and I'm having a grand old time showing off my Mandalorian helmet. So I'm living, my best life. I'm sorry to hear you're not doing so well, but I hope you enjoyed me showing off my Mandalorian helmet. Thanks, Jay, if you're listening.
I loved it, and I love living vicariously through you for all of those things. I shouldn't start off by being so negative. I'm only saying that because I'm sick.
It can only get better from here.
That's exactly what I have here in my notes to say. I had to write it down to force myself to say it. I guess it's like apropos. I'm literally sick of the past 3 years. So that's where I'm at. Had a good holiday season, though, and coming around. So here we are. Okay, so we are here to talk about the first 2 episodes of The Bad Batch Season 2, Spoils of War and Ruins of War.
I see what they did there.
2-parter. I loved that this is a 2-parter. I love these multi-part premieres, and I'm pretty excited. It's got me pretty excited for the sort of 2-part premiere, 2-part mid-season thing, and then a 2-part finale. And I'm excited for a multitude of other reasons, but let's start off this way. Royce, what did you think of these 2 episodes?
Yeah, I love the 2-episode premiere. That always reminds me of 24 always had the first 2 hours, and The Bad Batch is back in, I was going to say rare form. That's not the right thing. In its usual form. Yeah, I was excited for it and it delivered. I don't really have a lot of complaints. What was your initial reaction to it?
My initial reaction was about the same. So it's interesting because we talked a little bit on our last episode about you sort of getting more into Star Wars animation, and I have always been there, so I was very excited for the second season of this show to premiere. I also agree that it delivered. I was very happy, and it left me I would say most of the Star Wars television shows have left me. After this season premiere, I immediately wanted more, which would suck to say otherwise, but sometimes that does happen. But I would have sat there and watched the whole season if it had been released all at once. That's where I was by the end. Here's a little synopsis of the premiere. Months have passed since the events that culminated in the destruction of Tipoca City. We meet back up with our ragtag team of defective clones as they're pulling off an undisclosed job for a client of Sid's. New character, Fee Genoa, voiced by Wanda Sykes. At this point, we don't learn all that much about her, but I do have a feeling that she's going to play an important role in the rest of the season. Upon their return to Ord Mantell, Sid proposes a job pilfering Count Dooku's war chest from his castle on Sereno. The incentive for the batch being that their cut from one crate would be enough to buy their freedom. Sid finally convinces Hunter to take the job by telling him that it's only a matter of time before the Empire shuts down her operation, which I think is very important, and that he needs a plan for when that happens. Okay, that's enough of that. Listeners, go watch the episodes. They're great. The heist ensues. Things go wrong. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. Let's get into our reactions and breakdowns. So, Royce, the first thing that struck me in the first episode was how Spoils of War starts off so fun, and it looked amazing. The animation looks incredible. We start right off on this paradise planet, brightly lit. We're on the beach, the colors, the batch being chased by the crab things, just really fun and really beautiful. And I just was like, the animation looks so good.
Yeah, we were talking about like what animated show would we make? And I was like, I want a Gungan show with pretty colors. And like that pretty much was that.
Wow, yeah, that's that.
Super bright and colorful intro for like the Bad Batch, which should be kind of like gritty and dirty. Also, did you notice that their uniforms have new colors? Or is that just me?
Yes.
But like they look like they painted everything.
Yeah, they repainted their uniform, their armor, and I think they look great. Omega's a little bit aged up. It's been a little bit of time, and she's got a sort of new uniform with a helmet and stuff.
Got to sell new toys.
Well, true. And I didn't even think about that. I was just like so absorbed in the, wow, these look great. And probably also like, I would buy this new set of Funkos or figures or whatever. Because I also really like, there's a lot of yellow and orange, and I kind of love that.
Like you said, though, it shows that time has passed.
Yep. So, like you said, taking the bad out of the batch and starting off in this, like, whereas the first season started off with Order 66, which is this very heavy thing, even for animation, it was the massacre of the Jedi, and they're chasing little Caleb Dune through the forest. And this one starts off with like, we went over the plan 5 times. The first thing that happens is Echo runs out onto the beach and falls into the water, which upon second viewing, I noticed and had a good laugh.
There's a lot of comedic beats. That's like I don't remember the first season being that funny. I mean, I guess I didn't like rewatch it super in depth, but it was really funny. A lot of funny moments.
Yeah, I agree. And like Tech and Echo were also funny in the first season, but we didn't get as much time with them then as it's almost like we got more time with Tech and Echo in these 2 episodes than we did in the entire first season. So let's fast forward some, and they take this job raiding Dooku's war chest on Sereno. Omega goes with Tech and Echo, and originally Wrecker, and not Hunter. Hunter is set up to make their diversion if they need one. And that was a change because we're getting Omega with other characters of the show. We're focusing on other characters of the show, which is really nice. And I love Tech and Echo, so it was great to see. Then the heist goes wrong. They're crashing to Earth. Did anyone, I'm sure that everyone had a panic, pearl clutching, Nemec's death moment. I was so worried about Tech, and they just did this to us. I had major flashbacks to Nemec's death during that whole cargo container crash sequence.
Yeah, I noticed that too. In general, I thought it was really cool when they disengaged all those cargo units. They fell out of the sky. I was like, whoa! I was listening on headphones, and Robin was like, what's going on? I was like, you're not going to care about this. But like, I just looked cool when it disengaged all those electromagnetic cargo things or whatever. Yeah, and then they fall, and then you're like, oh, are they? Of course they're going to be fine. They made it seem like they were going to, that's where the episode ends, the first one. They're going to crash to the ground and like blow up, but they were fine. Yeah. I really did like the line from Tech where they're like, are you okay? He's like, well, my femur is fractured by 100 pounds of pressure. So no. It was like so dry,
Yeah.
but like, okay, that's pretty funny.
He's got a lot of those dry lines. That's what I like about his character so much. Like the just like deadpan, this situation is not ideal kind of lines.
We might be sucked out into oblivion, but I'm seldom wrong. So not to worry.
Yeah. I was worried that they would start like taking those kinds of risks with this show, though.
Killing off a major character in the first episode?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You flip the genre on its head or whatever. No, I was pretty worried. But like I said, I do love that the show seems to be giving more characters more time, or giving the characters at all more time. One of my biggest critiques of the first season was that a lot of stuff happened and a lot of canon, maybe more lore heavy stuff was going on, but the characters never seemed to had time to react to a situation or say what they needed to say, especially in the finale, right? In the finale of season 1, at moments when Crosshair is like, you made the wrong choice, and no one else is like, no, you made the wrong choice. Like that conversation was never had.
Maybe there was a conversation with Lucasfilm that they're like, Andor is going to like slow down and have more dialogue and like explore all these new themes. And the Bad Batch is still going to be a lighthearted animated series, but maybe that's part of the plan, is like to make everything a little bit more deep and wide, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe because this was so much more. I didn't really notice it until it happened in these episodes. It adds so much more. What's the right word? It makes it so much more personal or human, I guess. It makes it so much more like relatable and human when the characters are interacting in this way. The sequence of scenes on Sereno with Romar, who's like the native Serenian, he's housing Tech and Echo and Omega after Tech breaks his leg. He and Tech are having this conversation about fixing Romar's broken data core that like has an archive of Serenian culture.
Right.
And Tech says something like a separatist archive, and Romar says not separatist, Serenian. We did exist before the war. And Tech says, I never thought of it like that. I mean, showing that they were programmed as soldiers and they were not programmed to like unnecessarily understand the people in the galaxy. But this adds such like a human level to the character, and they're like spending time in this moment and they're spending time with this idea, and Tech is like reacting to this conversation. Oh, you're teaching me something. I've never thought of it that way. It's building on something bigger, kind of deprogramming the clones, or adding to like, can the Bad Batch, can clones exist out in the galaxy after war, or maybe even like during a war that maybe they don't want to fight because all they ever done is fought in a war. And if they are able to like learn and deprogram, then maybe they can go. I mean, we know from Rebels that Rex and Gregor and Wolf are fishing out in the desert instead of like fighting with the rebels. So maybe they get to the point where they're like, we actually have a choice and we can go and not fight a war. And so I really love them taking those moments, and I hope we see more of that throughout the series.
Yeah, you got to build the characters and give those moments where you're like, I didn't realize that the Mandalorian could have feelings. I didn't realize Boba Fett could have feelings, you know, like to subvert what you think of a character, you know? I can't believe that Luke Skywalker could be depressed. You're like, yeah, this is like they live a life and they have experiences and they open up to a new world. And like, wink, wink, viewer, maybe you too, wink, wink, can grow and learn new things over time and, you know, appreciate different cultures and whatnot. I don't think they're beating you over the head with it. But like you said, there's nice world building there. Like that guy that's like, I had a home and now I got to live in the woods. And this is all that's left of my people. And they don't even realize like what it is at first. You know, they're like, it's just a data log of separatist planets. He's like, no, it's my cultural history in a box or whatever. And then who knows, like Tech's like, I'm going to help you fix it. He could have like learned some stuff through that or copied data from it or something. Like, you never know.
That would be such a cool thing for Tech to get inspired to do, like chronicle the cultures of these like people that were devastated by the Empire or war in some other way. Like that's maybe some fan fiction or something going forward.
You had mentioned like, do they set up the path?
Yeah.
like that could be something cool. He's like, we know all these struggling people because we've been doing these jobs, and we tend to, for some reason, we tend to always run into like the, down and out. So they obviously are going to be cataloging more of these people as they go,
That's true. It could lead to the beginning of stages of the path, like I hoped that kind of thing would happen. So that would be cool.
The path or rebellion, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Or both. Who knows? So I'm going to fast forward a little bit again. There's kind of one more part of the episode that really stood out to me in both the terms of the Bad Batch and also in relation to Andor. And we got so much of this in Andor, and it's kind of exciting to see it in this show as much as it is a little bit sad. But you had mentioned the zinger at the end of the second episode. So Clone Captain Wilco is talking to Admiral Rampart, and they're discussing Wilco having seen Clone Force 99, and Rampart saying that's impossible. They died on Camino, and Wilco saying that it was them. And so Rampart is both so ingrained in the Empire and so afraid of Tarkin that he asks Wilco to falsify the reports. And Wilco says no, and Rampart kills him. So the idea of falsifying those reports to cover mistakes that was such a huge part of Andor. It's the whole reason that the rebellion gets the hold. We know that it ends up being the reason the rebellion gets the hold that it can. Starting here and in this animated show that like maybe some Star Wars fans don't watch, or like people don't often have a respect for animation, I thought was such a great use, as sad as it was to see. But even the corruption, animation is not safe from the complete corruption that the Empire has on its people.
Yeah, I mean, that was like definitely a theme in this, and that was the theme in Tales of the Jedi too. And I like it that they're pulling punches. Like that was a pretty dark, brutal moment for a quote unquote, cartoon. I love that we keep coming back to that. Like there's going to be more moments where Bad Batch proves over and over again that like it's not just what you think the cover of the book is,
Yeah, and tying in, making those little poetry moments between this show and a show like Andor, I think is just so smart. And so Leonardo DiCaprio in that meme where he's pointing at the TV, So Wilco won't do what Rampart orders him to do. And whether that's a function of the inhibitor chip programming, like you have to be ethical in that way.
He follows protocol.
Or if it's him going against the inhibitor chip, I don't know. We had talked last time about like the inhibitor chip's becoming more and more ambiguous, right? It's not like an on-off switch like I thought it was. So did Wilco say no because he has certain values, or because he was programmed to follow protocol? We see it in the trailer when we finally meet up with Crosshair and Cody. Cody is beginning to question things, and Crosshair says any clones who question the motives of the Empire are traitors. We're again seeing more of sort of the maybe ambiguity of the inhibitor chip, or clones kind of going against the inhibitor chip, which I think will be really interesting to see. Right now, it's a little confusing to me, but...
Yeah, I want them to write that out. I think it's a little bit of like a MacGuffin or, like scapegoat. Like, I think in that moment, Wilco is just making a decision, period. I think the clones still have free will to a degree. And he's like, no, I'm going to follow protocol. Like, that's what we do. I don't just like make stuff up. Maybe I have this chip that makes me murder innocent people, but I also follow the normal protocol of day-to-day Empire stuff. So I think that's just what stood out to him, is like, no, what you're doing is wrong. Not necessarily chip related.
Well, I don't know, because the whole thing with the chips, when Order 66 was enacted, good soldiers follow orders. That was the line. So yeah, I'm not sure where that actual line in the sand is, but it'd be interesting to see as we go forward. Do you have anything else from this episode that stood out to you?
They should have named these episodes So Much Stun Gun and So Much More Stun Gun. I made a note every time there was stun gun because I was like, I'm going to need these scenes later for a montage video.
Nice.
So I'm writing down these timestamps. There's at least like a dozen or more times where they're stun gunning people. And I love that. I think it's fun for the background of the characters that they don't want to actually kill other clones or even like people in general. Like they go to stun gun first, but they really like hit on it hard. There's even a scene where like Tech sniper stun guns someone. Like he really takes his time to stun him. Like they taken the stun gun to a whole nother level.
I also noticed that, and I really love that, the whole idea that like they don't want to hurt their brothers because they know it's not their fault. But then also Wrecker makes that canon and just starts like there's the scene where Wrecker and Hunter are in the trenches and like Hunter's stunning the clones.
Yeah, it's
but
a little
Wrecker's just using this cannon.
I'm a great cannon. I'm a tank or whatever he says. I'm a great tank.
Yeah. So I thought that was just a weird thing to see. I get it. Like they need to do what they have to do to survive.
Yeah. How do they know when they want to stun or when they actually need to shoot to kill? Like, again, that's like your inhibitor chip thing, dude. I think there's a couple of scenes here that like, please don't read into them because you're gonna.
I will.
House of Cards will cave in faster than you can realize. But yeah, maybe like tone down the stun gun then. Like if it's all or nothing, like it was impossible not to notice the heavy use of it.
It's a great sound effect though.
Yeah, totally. Also, sound effects. All right, great. Thanks for bringing that up, Joe. Also,
smooth transition.
The Death Star effect, like that's always a classic. If you wanted like get people's nostalgia going, like enter an Empire base and play that whatever that sound effect is. That's a great one. Always wins.
Did you notice those ships, like the transport escort ships? I don't know if TIE fighters are a thing yet, in this timeline of events, but they kind of look and they looked and sounded a little bit like proto TIE fighters.
Right. They're like elongated TIE fighters or whatever. Yeah. I have one note about the music, which is in general awesome. Like shout out to
Kevin Kiner.
Yeah, shout out to Kevin Kiner for doing such a like incredible job for an animated series. There was a moment when they're like first doing the siege on Dooku's goods or whatever, and it sounded like the Trade Federation invasion on Naboo. And I don't know if it was like an original thing or if it was like a blend between an old John Williams theme and other Bad Batch original stuff. It was giving me a lot of those vibes, and I love that droid invasion on Naboo. It's like a classic prequel score in my mind. Yeah, good job, Kevin Kiner. Thank you. I get the Death Star siren, and I get some themes from Phantom Menace, like we were talking about, previous episodes. Like, bring in those themes. They're sneaking around. That makes sense. Like, they're going to invade some place. Bring in a theme that makes sense for that, and it was kind of rearranged to sound kind of sneaky. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. I did not notice that, but I will. Now I want to go back and watch it again. I can't even like necessarily hear the theme that you're talking about, but I want to go back and watch it and see if I can pull it out.
It's kind of a hard one to sing. It's like, oh,
okay, yeah,
something like that. But it's like a play off it. It's not exactly the Phantom Menace score, but it's like we were saying about some of the Andor stuff. It's like this is kind of reminiscent of that.
Yeah, very cool. I love that.
You have mentioned this before with Star Wars having like in general music through like the whole movie, and I felt that a lot with these Bad Batch episodes too. There's always moments punctuated by music, which makes it just works. It just works.
Yeah. Even when they go into SIDS, the music kind of transitions between like the score of the show and like a jukebox in Sid's parlor playing music, which I did notice and also really liked. I guess I'm getting more in tune to sort of bring the music into the world, like with the band in Andor, when it's kind of transitioning from the score to in-world music. And when it's done really well, I thought that was really cool.
Right.
And now, for everyone's favorite segment, not so surprising question time. Where do you think we're going this season? Let's speculate wildly and uncontrollably. Got any theories? Got any little... You want me to go first? I've got 4 here.
You're normally not prepared, so when it's not a surprise, you're prepared. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I will kick it back to you. Like, where they leave off, they were trying to get the treasure so they could be free, and they show that this Empire guy doesn't want it to get out that the Bad Batch is alive. So the Bad Batch isn't quite, like, quote-unquote free because they're broke, I guess, is the plot. the Empire thinks they're dead, but that one dude knows they're alive. So he's probably still going to be hunting them. Maybe he sends like Crosshair on a secret mission. I don't know. It's going to be a lot like last season, man. I feel like this first episode had some of those nuggets of bigger world building things, but the next episode could just be a Crypto the dog episode. Like for the whole season, I don't know. Like that could be wild speculation, but I think the next episode or two, we're probably going to get some one-offs. I didn't read the titles. I would guess the next one or two are going to be just one-off mini adventures rather than the huge world building. Other than that, I don't know if I can wildly speculate yet. But what are you thinking? Where is it going?
Well, to touch on a couple of things that you brought up, Clone Force 99 doesn't know that the Empire thinks they're dead. I'm sure that they think Crosshair immediately told, Rampart and the other higher-ups that they're still alive. So in that way, Crosshair kind of falsified those reports. So he's probably going to be in trouble. So that Rampart might send Crosshair out to make up for sort of lying because now Rampart is on the line. Like if Tarkin finds out that they're still alive, he's going to take it out on Rampart, not Crosshair. There's maybe some more depth there than there was in just sending your bounty hunter out to catch the guys of the first season.
Right.
I'm not sure when it'll happen, but I don't think it should be taken lightly. Sid's conversation at the beginning of the first episode of sooner or later, the Empire is going to find us, find this place. And my gig here is not going to work anymore. So she's expecting the Empire to come to Ord Mantell and stop her goings on or take over her, all the stuff she has going on. So I wonder if that's going to happen. We're going to see the end of Sid one way or another, whether the Empire takes her out or just takes her spot. And the Bad Batch not working with Sid anymore, but transitioning to working for or with Fee, who is, we know, the pirate, treasure hunter, whatever else she's got going on. They're going to need to continue doing stuff, making money, procuring goods, whatever they need to do to survive or fund the rebellion or whatever they're going to want to start doing. I would also, in that transition, love to see Sid go full Trandoshan on some Empire dudes. We saw in season 1 with the Spice episodes that she might be just as strong as Wrecker. I think there was some stuff in there where she was carrying the crates, or it showed her level of strength. So I'd love to just kind of see her go feral on some troopers. But I think that would be an interesting way for the series to go, transition out from under Sid and more to Fee, where experiencing more of the galaxy and treasure hunting and that kind of stuff. And maybe that's what gets them on the path of these Jedi. They cross paths looking for Force objects or whatever, keeping them from the Empire and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, just like the name of the show is Bad Batch. It's not Rebels, So it's there's a fine line between are they just going to start working for the rebel? There's no way it's going to just be now the Bad Batch is a rebel cell. They're always going to have to be their own squad. Whether they run into rebels or not, different story. But it's not going to be Rebels the show. Just like Andor isn't Rebels the show, but it does, everything revolves around events that Andor sort of puts into play. I think that's the interesting quandary, because think about a show like Rebels or Clone Wars, you're following the same faction the whole time. They're kind of supporting the same overlords the whole time too, The Republic and the Separatists, the Rebels and the Empire. And now we have the Bad Batch on the run from the Empire and occasionally other, random mercenary people. So they have to keep that formula going. So I don't know if they join, like you said, they might just start working for this other lady, and that's it. I don't know how they could really flip the script where you're now they're rebels. I don't think it's going to be that much of a reveal.
Sure. Yeah. I was thinking more in line of like I said, starting the path or the beginning stages of that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be a different line to go down that might make more sense. They still are connected to those, but they're doing something that Rebels did not do, That's, they've already figured this out, but I've not thought about it. That's the first thing coming to my mind is how do they can't meet up with Saw Gerrera, Bail Organa, even though we're it would be sure nice to see all these people, but then it's just Rebels,
Yeah, there's no real connection to those characters. But either way, that line from Sid really stuck out to me as being important. What are they setting up here? She is waiting for the Empire to show up at any minute.
Yeah, that's a foreshadowing season finale moment.
Maybe it'll be the mid-season thing. Who knows? We'll see. And so that's really the main speculation that I had, besides like maybe them starting the beginning stages of the path. But just some kind of questions that I hope we touch more on throughout the season. The main one is Kaminoans. Are we going to see Nala Se? I'm sure we will, but what will she be doing for the Empire? What does the Empire want her for?
I will be impressed if the next episode we continue with some big world ideas like that. Do we take an episode away from the Bad Batch? Like they're traveling from A to B, and instead of hanging out with them, we hang out with Nala Se or whatever, or Palpatine, or do we actually dive into the plot? Or is next week going to be a villain of the week sort of thing, or another heist or whatever, which is fun. I don't know. Maybe we just want too much. I just want it to be good. And I think the villain of the week is just a little too easy. But I suppose that in an episode of 16 seasons, like we mentioned last episode, I think like you're going to get a couple of those maybe sort of filler episodes. But I forgot about the Kaminoans. I would love to catch up with that for sure.
Yeah, we all have lingering questions and I want to know more. And then another big one, I think, is what happens to the clones. We're seeing now something that really stood out to me in this episode was that it was all clones. Imperial occupation of Sereno means clones. We see Wilco not following Rampart's orders, and we see in Andor fully ingrained Imperials, or maybe like the idea that conscription soldiers are willing to falsify reports and clones are not. And eventually, there are no more clones. So what does the Empire do eventually to the clones? I would love to see that. That might get a little too dark for something like this, but I don't know. An idea that's kind of been in the back of my mind since the Clone Wars is, what would happen if the Empire turned off their inhibitor chips years later? Like, would a bunch of clones come to their senses and realize that they betrayed all the people that they fought alongside for so many years during the Clone Wars? Again, stuff like that might get a little too dark, but I'm very curious to see maybe a progression of the question, what happens to the clones?
Yeah. All right. Wild speculation. I want the Bad Batch to amass as many clones as it can. There's going to be a line that they say, we're going to need an army. And then Hunter's going to say, I know where we can find one, or something stupid like that. And then they're going to enlist all these other clones. They'll find Hauser or whatever, Hoosier, Hauser. They'll have an army of their clone brethren, and that would be an epic scene. Whether that happens or not, who knows? And they can go on a Hail Mary suicide mission to like blow up, some base and try to like free people. And you can bring in the Kaminoans because Omega will be like, no, let's say we got to go back for her, whoever. She's going to have sentimental attachment. Man, that could be a banger for a season finale. But that's a pretty wild one, though. An army of freed clones against the Empire.
I would love that. First of all, I'd like to point out that kudos to you for knowing his full name, Hoosier Hauser. And second of all...
Come on, is that it? No.
No, it is not it. It's just Hauser. I'm pretty sure on one of our early episodes of Krypton to Alderaan, I talk about the idea of how cool it would be to have a clone rebellion. Like very early on, after the Empire turns off all their inhibitor chips or whatever they do, they come to their senses and realize that fighting back against the Empire, regardless of being able to survive, is what they have to do because they were made to betray the Jedi, who they fought alongside them for years. They were their people. They were friends and family and whatever else. So I would love that. I don't think it'll happen in this show, but I would love a fan fiction. I would love a comic book. I would love for that to happen. I love the clones. That's why I love these shows. I just really love the clones. That's all I got.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it. I just love the clones. All right, listeners, what do you think is going to happen in the Bad Batch? Are we going to get some filler or are we going to get some meat on the bone? We'd love to hear what you think is coming up next on season 2 and how you're enjoying the premiere so far. Of course, you can hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat. Do we Snapchat? What's the new one? Hive?
Hive.
I got to remember the spiel. Hit us up wherever you social media. We are out there, Krypton to Alderaan. We would love to hear from you. It really makes the show much more fun to do when we can interact with you, the loyal listener who made it to the end of the episode. Achievement unlocked. Thank you so much for listening today. I have been Royce.
I've been Wrecker.
And we've been Krypton